Welcome back. We have a really fun show for you today. We're talking nothing but pro wrestling. But to get out the way, we're going to talk about some news. We have possible Season 3. Stephen L. giving us an update. Hulk Hogan Biopic has been canceled. We'll find out why. Then we're going to give you more knowledge on the Netflix deal with WWE and WWE Raw. And then finally, we're just talking pro wrestling. What got us into it, what we liked about it, and then what we don't necessarily like about it. I'm excited. Let's get into this. They picked the wrong music, but that's okay. My crew is still amazing. Welcome back, everybody, to ReelTime RoundTable, where we give you the best Hollywood-related news here on YouTube. I am your co-host, Josh Williams.
I'm your co-host, Jordan Burke.
And we're talking nothing but pro wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Pro wrestling. I'm excited. How's your day going?
It's all right.
It doesn't matter how your day is going.
I knew you were going to do that. I knew you were going to do that.
That's what we were talking about before the show?
Yeah.
That's what I was going to do. If you're a wrestling fan, you'll get it. If not, it just went whoosh.
If not, you're a loser. I'm
Total
just kidding.
loser.
I'm just kidding. It's a joke.
Right there.
It's a joke. We love you.
Boom. No, I'm excited to talk because I think out of all of us here at KMOS, we're the only wrestling nerds.
Yeah.
Which
I think so.
I mean, I'm fine. I'm cool with that. I mean,
there's not very many of us, but
no,
that's okay.
There's
That's
few and far
okay.
between, but that's perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get into some of this. I'm excited to talk about it. So Stephen Amell recently on Screen Rant did an interview, and he talked about a possible Season 3 now that Heels is on Netflix. Typically, we've seen this before where Heels goes on, or like a show goes on Netflix and then they get greenlit for an additional season just to help either close out their series. I know one that really did it was Manifest, which I was extremely excited about. They're able to close out the story. And here's what he had to say. I think he said, and I quote, "I think Season 3 is a possibility. I think that people are going to have to watch it on Netflix. It's going to have to line up schedule-wise for me because I know I have another job that's in the first position. But listen, without trying to spoil it, we didn't want to send my character out quite literally on his back. There was always an idea that we would tell more of the story, and I think there's a lot more to be told. I think if we did not come back, you might see a little bit of a jump in time." So that's, I mean, he doesn't necessarily say yes, it's going to happen, but it's the possibility of it, and that's the good part. And if there's a jump in time, that's no big deal. I mean, we don't want to go too much into spoilers. We don't want to ruin it for anybody, but Season 2 did end up on a huge cliffhanger. And like I was chomping at the bit for Season 3, but of course Stars canceled it. You hear this news, I mean, as long as people see it on Netflix, how does it make you feel that the idea that Season 3 is a possibility?
I think moving it to Netflix is a really good idea.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a wider platform than Stars and even Amazon, where a lot of more people can see it and they'll be able to find it. I think if it gets the growth it needs, Season 3 is fantastic. It does scare me a little bit because I think this show is such a specific category for a very specific audience, and that's pro wrestling fans. And there's a lot of us out there, but there's not very many. So it is a little concerning that it's not going to get the recognition it needs.
Yeah, that's very true, because I would think if you're not a pro wrestling fan, like I've always said this before, even if you're not a pro wrestling fan, it's just a great story of drama. And of course, I mean, Stephen Amell is fantastic in it, as long as everybody else who is in it. So I can see where some people might deter because pro wrestling has a niche to it. But I'm also hopeful because you said it's a much wider platform for Netflix. They're not just local. You're not just U.S. They're worldwide. So it makes me hopeful. Now, it also makes me hopeful because of like the past 2 weeks, I've seen it being promoted constantly on Netflix. Yeah. Like it's always like right when I open it up, it's right there, new on Netflix or trending on Netflix and stuff like that. So if that's the case, that's a good thing.
I mean, it's good enough that they are promoting it, that even Netflix wants to promote it.
I mean, it high rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I think both seasons are like 90 plus on Rotten Tomatoes. So that's always a good thing. I'm excited the fact that as long as everything aligns for it, it's a possibility. It's just it's on all you guys out there to watch it. Because I think I'm gonna rewatch it, just not because of this, obviously.
I made the joke that Josh was gonna be the one to put it on the map.
I'm gonna watch it like a bajillion
You're keeping
times.
the show alive.
No, I'm keeping the show alive. I mean, it's just such a good
show.
story.
Like
and
you said, even if you don't like pro wrestling, it's still just a really good story with really good characters.
So I'm excited to see how this lines out. I mean, we will see, as long as, I think when Manifest was released on Netflix, because it was originally on NBC, then it got canceled. and then it got put on Netflix, and then I think it was like 6 months after they seen the success of people rewatching it, that's when they greenlit the final season. So I'm hoping that if that's the case, that trend will continue, because this has been on there for about a month now. It hasn't been on very long. I hope if that's the case and people really watch it, then, I mean, because it's only, 8 episodes per season or something like that. It's not very long.
It's really not.
It's really not that long. So we'll guess we'll find out here in 6 months whether it gets greenlit or not. So that's what makes me hopeful. So,
I'm excited.
Yeah. What do you guys think of this news? Have you seen Heels? Are you excited for the possibility of season 3? If you have seen it, what do you think of it? Leave your comments in that section below and let us know your thoughts. What's next, boss?
The Hulk Hogan biopic starring Chris Hemsworth as of right now, has been scrapped. They've kind of decided they're not doing it. Hulk Hogan, who is the wrestler that the story is about, has revealed that the project was scrapped due to an issue with the contract. I want to say it was a budget issue, but I could be completely wrong. So I'm interested in what you think about this.
I was so excited for this.
No,
just because,
so
I mean, there was the reason Chris Hemsworth was so buffed in the latest Thor is because he was training to be Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
So he was like buffing himself up a ton just to play this role, and he like transformed himself. You see right here, this is actually a still that they did. This is not like made up. This is what he was supposed to look like, and I'm like, wow,
yeah,
that looks really good.
It does.
It looks really, really good.
It looks really good.
And so I was really excited to see, because apparently they were going to really get into the weeds of like not just the glam of what Hulk Hogan was, but
it was supposed to be dark.
Yeah, some dark stuff about him, about him as in general, about him himself, but also just life in general as a pro wrestler. And that's what I was excited for the most. But now that it's scrapped, I'm disappointed because, yeah, okay, contractually it's a contract issue, but it almost made me wonder if there's more to it.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I mean, there's a lot going on with Hulk Hogan right now.
A lot.
He's in the eye right now.
A lot, because a lot of the stuff we're not gonna get into his personal life, but
he's out there.
It's out there
right now. He is very much out there.
Yeah, and some very interesting life choices, I will say. That goes to me. It's easy for me to differentiate, because I will always love Hulk Hogan the character. You know what I mean? Like it was so transformative for wrestling. And I think without him in the 80s, pro wrestling in WWE wouldn't be where it is today. And then of course, like the Attitude Era shot that up even more. But it really was.
But
Hulk
Hogan.
He was
a definite turning point.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sports fans out there, he was like like for basketball, he was like the Larry Bird or Magic Johnson of pro wrestling back in the 80s. He was really that thing. So that's when it was supposed to take place. So. Disappointed, but I am wondering if there's a little more to it, that maybe he just used this as an excuse to cancel it. I don't know, but what do you think about it? Are you disappointed, or were you excited for it all?
I was excited. I think Hulk Hogan is a very interesting character to make a biopic about. I think it would have been a great idea. It does say that even though the contract right now, the deal is dead, that doesn't mean that someone else or Netflix can renegotiate and then pick up another deal. I kind of think that's what's going to happen, because these are two huge people right now. I mean, Chris Hemsworth is massive. Hulk Hogan, for wrestling fans, is such a big character. Even for non-wrestling fans, he's a big character in the eye right now. So I think there is a lot of potential that they could just renegotiate a new contract.
If they renegotiated and greenlit a brand new version of it, my question to you is, though, would Chris Hemsworth come back? Like, he was excited for the role, yes, but... Huh?
Would he be able to?
Yeah, that's
a lot of work.
But he did a lot of training.
Yeah.
He's like in his 40s now. I mean, he even talks about how he hates bulking up for certain roles.
Because it's hard.
It's very hard.
It's so freaking hard for them to do.
Like, I watched a video once of like him training, like trying to bulk up for, I can't remember what role it was, and like things he eats, like he's like, I just hate how much protein I have to eat like all the time, all the meat he has to eat all the time, and stuff like that. It's just, so if it happens, we could be. I don't even know if Chris Hemsworth would come back. I wish he would, but that's a lot of work. Yeah. And that could be a huge loss for this one.
I mean, he did it once. He could do it again. I think it would definitely be possible for him to kind of get back into that physique, because he's not extremely far from it right now. Yeah. But that is a lot of pressure and a lot of work.
Because there was rumors that the script was so good that it could give Chris Hemsworth an Oscar nomination. That was the buzz of behind this, that it was an Oscar possibly worthy nomination for him. So.
So I wonder if, with that in mind, if it'd even be worth for them to redo a contract, even continue with the movie, and for Chris Hemsworth to come back in.
a very interesting idea. So.
It is an interesting idea. It's very interesting. Let us know what you guys think. Are you excited for this movie? Do you think they'll redo a new contract? Let us know what you think in the comments.
All right, let's get to our last topic here, which is a very interesting one before we get to a lot more fun for me and you. Variety has talked about that Netflix's WWE Raw is moving to Netflix starting January 6th. It's a very interesting.
That's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming up quick.
It's getting close.
It was basically $500 million per year, which is about $5 billion deal, which is huge for WWE. Very huge for WWE. But this comes at it's a very confusing thing because I've heard a lot of people not sure what's going to happen with all the other shows or the premium live events. So this is what we wanted to kind of get into is what's going on behind it. This article kind of goes into it a little bit more. So according to this article, that Raw will be exclusively on Netflix. Now SmackDown will continue to stay, I believe, on Fox. That's what the article says here. And then NXT will continue to stay on CW. Now, the confusing part of that is for the US only, that's how it will be. Worldwide, like Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and the premium live events will be on Netflix. But the premium live events, like the pay-per-views that we watch, like Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, for US, they will stay on Peacock along with all the library that's associated with WWE. So the reason I want to talk about it, and just also to clear that up for anybody who's wondering, hearing that from, as a fellow wrestling fan, doesn't that just sound so confusing and annoying?
That's just a very interesting way to take it. I don't know. I feel like from what I've heard, the entire big intention of this deal is to expand the reach of WWE globally. I personally don't feel like they need to.
No.
They are massive. If you watch any of their pay-per-views outside of the United States,
like
it's
UK,
ridiculous.
Saudi Arabia,
it's crazy.
France,
so many people are there.
I think they went to Dublin one time and it was insane.
It's absolutely insane. Even recently they did Backlash in France, and it was like 19,000 people, and it was still massive. The police showed up and said, "You guys are being too loud. Are you okay?" And they're like, "Yep, we're just wrestling." Like, that's how big they are globally. So I don't understand why are they. What's do they even need to expand it?
I mean, it seems like they're wanting to. Well, now that they're a part of UFC, like they're all under one umbrella, I think they're trying to take both companies to the next level, quote unquote, as far as their reach. Because I mean, UFC technically is MMA, but that's how people associate it. You know what I mean? Same with WWE. Like they associate pro wrestling with WWE, even though there's much more different companies and competition out there.
Right.
So maybe that's the idea to even go even further. Like, I don't know how far they would go. Like, we're talking like, because they've been to Australia. They've already been to Australia. Maybe, I don't know, where China, Africa, because they've been everywhere in Europe already.
Everywhere else.
South America, maybe. I don't know. So it's very interesting. I just think $5 billion is a good reason also, because Netflix approached them with this idea, because Netflix gave an offer because they were hunting for a new place, because USA was not continuing their contract. So I think that had a big thing to do with it, honestly, also. But it just doesn't also just sound really confusing as a user of the content. Why didn't Netflix just buy everything?
Yeah, why not just all or nothing? Why specifically just Raw?
Yeah.
And that's it. And I get Raw is kind of a little bit bigger than everything else, but why not just take all of it?
Yep.
Unless there's a new contract with Peacock, or that contract is still standing, that they do kind of
That's true.
own the rights to it.
And I want to get your thoughts on this. Apparently, recently, Netflix has reached out to WWE themselves, and because they spent so much on this, they're requesting that Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes are on Raw, and CM Punk, like all three of them, go to exclusively to Raw. Do you think that would even happen? Because SmackDown does need their stars too.
I mean, I think maybe.
I don't think so.
If there's enough, I mean, if there's...
I don't think so.
I don't know. See, because I was going to say if there's enough money in it, then maybe. But Paul Levesque is huge on keeping his people where they need to be. And if he knows that money is also going to come out of keeping some of them on SmackDown, he's going to keep them on SmackDown.
Yep.
Because he's kind of all about the story right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's not,
Which I don't
think, I don't know if he's going to risk just for money.
Doing
Yep.
I agree too. I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe they'll compromise and do like 2 out of 3 or 1 out of I don't know. However that's going to play out. But it's going to be a long time. They're going to be a part of Netflix for quite a while now.
It's like a 10-year contract.
Yeah, 10-year contract. So
that's a long time.
That's a long time. So we're going to have plenty of times people see it on Netflix. My worry also is that they're going to start doing commercials with it. They haven't been confirmed with that yet, but that would just be really annoying for me, honestly.
I've heard a couple other people making kind of like talking about and also making jokes that since WWE right now is kind of in their PG era because they're trying to get like kids watching and younger people, when they move to Netflix, they're going to go back to their Attitude era. And I've heard a lot of people talking like, are they going to start getting more like into the rated R stuff that they used to do?
I did see an interview about that. Paul Levesque talked about that a little bit. The PG era is over, apparently. He didn't say it, but it's over.
But it's over.
But they're not going back to like the Attitude era where it was like blood and guts everywhere. You know what I mean? But they're going back to serious toned storylines. And, if a little, like, even CM Punk did an interview, like, where they talk about how we're going more away from, like, the funky, fun stuff that they did back in the 2010s, been going more serious storylines because, but they're not going to, like, just have blood everywhere just because if it's part of the story, it's part of the story. Like, Attitude Era back then, like, there's blood everywhere constantly all the time and chairs and all kinds of stuff, but they're going more mature base to help get that because they realized against AEW, they were losing that 18 to 49 demographic. And so they were like losing badly to them. So they wanted to gain them back, essentially. Because, I don't think the kids are going anywhere because the parents are going to be taking their kids. I'm going to take my daughter. Yeah.
So. And if you're doing like rated R stuff, you lose all of your minors. You can't have any of them. And
of course, they're not going to go back to, like, that's the other thing too. They're not going to go back to like, as far as like the female wrestlers, like, them in bikinis or lingerie or something like that. Like, whatever they, what they did back in the Attitude Era and back in the like 2000s, they're definitely not going back to that. Yeah. But there's, like they said, the more serious tone. So I'm glad I was able to at least clear that up for you because they're definitely going away from the PG stuff and going more serious, kind of PG-13 essentially. So
I think that's good.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think of this news? Is it confusing to you as it is for me? Because I think they just need to streamline it and have Netflix buy everything eventually. But are you excited for it to be on Netflix? Are you going to watch it on Monday Night Raw on Netflix? Leave your comments in that section below and let us know your thoughts. Let's get into some fun stuff.
It's discussion time.
It's discussion of the week time.
My favorite time. I think this is going to be so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
Because Josh and I have kind of, we're both huge wrestling fans, and we've known that kind of since we met. And we talk about wrestling on the show a lot, and it's kind of been a joke of like, let's just do a full wrestling episode. And then last week we were like, no, let's actually do a full wrestling episode.
We're almost done.
We have time. Let's do it. And I think this topic or this discussion is going to be so interesting because we're from different wrestling generations.
Oh yeah.
So the things that you found fascinating, I wasn't alive for, and I wasn't watching yet.
Thanks for saying that. Like I wasn't alive.
I don't mean it like that, but I mean like.
No, yeah, it's true.
The era that you grew up in.
Oh yeah.
Ended when I was born, so I think that's so fascinating.
Oh yeah. I grew up. I first started watching wrestling. I think. The very first episode I ever watched, was when Mike Tyson came on to be referee for Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yep.
That was the first episode I ever watched, and ever since then, I was hooked. And like I watched all the way through the Attitude Era, all the way through the 2000s when like I was that kid also because I also got into WCW. At the time, funny enough, like I watched them both equally, but Goldberg. As a child, my childhood, he was my wrestler. He was my all-time favorite wrestler. I would not have guessed that about you. Just the aura around him, like how they packaged him. They took all of his strengths and amplified them. Like because he's even today he is crappy on the microphone. He is not good. He's not. But they knew that going in WCW, so they hid that away as part of his character to then enhance the things that he was great at. Like a lot of like how he fed off the crowd, how he got the crowd hyped up, the moves he did, just that aura, like when he would walk up and for his entrance and the sparks would go in his face and he'd blow out smoke like a dragon. I'm like, that's so cool. Like that's just, and of course like Stone Cold was like right behind him. So those are my two growing up. But there was also so much more to like back then. D-Generation X started, like Shawn Michaels and Triple H started back then. The Undertaker and Kane really got their stuff started. Like all those pillars that you hear about that were like the legends back then. They were the thing.
They're the pillars. They're kind of like the creators.
Yeah, and just a lot of other stuff too. I mean, my favorite female wrestler for the longest time was Trish Stratus.
Absolutely.
And then Lita, of course. You know, those two. That feud was actually good. And that's when, like, they were still doing those things like those lingerie things. But that was when they came on, especially Lita. I think like Vince McMahon and them started taking female wrestling more seriously, which they should have. And like, because they were doing things that were actually very,
they were doing like kind of aggressive,
impressive things to see. And that's, to me, I attribute what they did to what's happening now. Of course, like we'll get into the female renaissance of the 2010s, like, because I want to ask you about that, because that's about when you started watching. But that, I mean, that's where it all started for me, and I just kept going from there. I did take a big break between, I believe it was 2016 to 2019, I think it was. And what got me back in was Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
So, but what about you? I've actually never found out where you started with wrestling, because like, where did you start?
So I started watching wrestling when I was in middle school, somewhere around 6th, 7th grade, which would have been 2015, 2016. So right when you stopped watching is when I started watching.
That was right around when AJ Styles first got there.
Yes.
Okay.
That was, and it just never really, my dad was a huge wrestling fan, but I was still pretty young at the time, so we just never really watched it. And then we were...
Now, I will admit, I stopped watching Raw and SmackDown at the time. I still watched NXT because of like Bayley, Bray Wyatt, all those characters, like that, and you know, your favorite character. Like, I still watched NXT because it was actually, to me, it was good wrestling.
Yeah.
But go ahead, sorry.
Where was I?
Where you started.
So we were, my dad was a huge fan, but we never watched it. And then one day we were just watching TV, and he was flipping through, and Raw was on. And nobody seems to remember this when I talk about it, but it was when Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan were a tag team for a very... Thank you. No one else seems to remember that.
It was very brief.
It was very, very small. But I like started watching right in that little moment, and I remember watching the two of them being like, "This is really, really cool. I really like this." So we started watching a little bit, and then we heard about NXT, and I kind of thought it was like Tough Enough. Which, if you don't know, Tough Enough was a reality show where they would take in athletes that wanted to be
pro wrestlers and kind of put them through week to week, and then they would eliminate them, and then whoever was last was They got a contract,
and they were kind of the new wrestler. So we started watching NXT, and I was like, oh, this is really, really cool.
Oh, yeah.
And then when they got huge and they were trying to compete to be like a full-time show and a full, like, to be taken very seriously, is when I was hooked, and then I've been hooked ever since.
Yep. No, I became a fan. So around 2012, I will say, I did take a brief break too. Like, I took a break around there too, 2012, 2013. But it was NXT when it first started, when Triple H started it, is when I got it. Like, Paige, she was and still to this day, like, when I first saw her wrestle in NXT, I was like, now, of course, in my opinion, Vince McMahon completely dropped the ball on her character and her potential. And plus, well, she got injured. She got a neck. She got her neck got injured. But when I saw her in NXT, I was like, that's the future star right there. Like, I don't know why, it was just something about her character, like how she's able to tell a story within the wrestling ring, and just her character, everything in her connection with the crowd was like right there. But also Bray Wyatt started then. Seth Rollins started then, like that's when it first started, and that's when I got hooked. That's what got me back into wrestling, because I was watching them, then I started watching what else was going on, because at that time CM Punk essentially left, and he was what kept me around during that time, and John Cena was just still being John Cena. He was just always around, and that's the time when he was getting stale, and they were trying to come up with ways to keep him relevant, and just it wasn't as good a product as at that time. And that's kind of where I was there too when I took that other break, because they did pretty good with AJ Styles, and I loved when he was in TNA, but it just wasn't. That was the time too when they were pushing Roman Reigns as the guy, which I find funny now, because now he's probably one of the biggest today or if not the biggest, next to Cody Rhodes as far as their biggest stars.
I would even argue, some people would probably argue that he's
They
bigger
would.
than Cody Rhodes.
They still would.
At times, I think they kind of...
Oh, yeah. But that was the big difference. Back then, he was being pushed, and he just wasn't that good.
And it wasn't.
Now,
it wasn't
it's
hitting.
because he organically has now become, because he was a bad guy, now he's got people on, at his fingertips. So, yeah, that's where I really started to get back to was NXT as well. And kept watching it. Like Bray Wyatt, too, is another person. Sadly, rest in peace. He has passed away. So that another great character that Vince McMahon dropped. He was supposed to be the next Undertaker, the next big thing in that realm of what do you want to call it, like mystical, spiritual,
like supernatural
there
characters.
We go. Thank you.
Yeah.
And like his original character, that was like one of the best characters I'd seen in a very long time. With like his like swamp cult like guy that he was originally. I don't know if you remember him. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
It was just the best. And of course, it went on from there. But I want to so when you first started out, then who was like your favorite at the time?
Man, you're like never gonna guess.
Oh, okay. We did start around that time, didn't he?
Yeah. So when I started watching, right when we started watching NXT, I remember when Adam Cole. By the way, I didn't say that. Adam Cole is my favorite wrestler. He's kind of the one that got me in. But when we started watching NXT, I remember when he showed up, like our first pay-per-view with NXT that we watched, which was only a couple weeks.
He super kicked Drew McIntyre.
He did, and it was so epic. And I remember he came in, and I was like, well, who does this guy think he is?
Yep.
And it was just, I don't know, just the way he expressed himself, the way he would wrestle was so... it kind of just revolutionary. And then at that time, everyone in NXT was really trying to push themselves and prove that they knew what they were doing, and it was just such good storytelling, and I loved it.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So mine kind of evolved. Like I said, I've already talked about some who have always evolved from there. Daniel Bryan was another one for me that I really liked initially. Like he's still as far as a wrestler goes, like a pro wrestler, he's amazing. CM Punk was one of my other ones I really liked. Speaking of fun story, if we want to talk about some of our favorite moments, one of my all-time favorite moments going to a live event was June 27th, 2011. And if nobody knows that date, if you're a hardcore fan, you know that date. It was in Las Vegas. I was stationed there, and I was there. You know the famous CM Punk pipe bomb that he did? I was there for that. Almost talk about those moments I was there. I literally was, and I remember the crowd was just in awe of his speech. And I was just stunned because it was so good and so effective, and that's essentially what made him what he is today. So that was probably one of my favorite moments. What's yours?
This is gonna be so dumb. Because I was a big NXT fan, one of my favorite moments and one of my favorite stories was Undisputed Era versus Pat McAfee in War Games.
Yeah.
That's so funny, and I think it was dumb but amazing, and I loved it.
So you said before the show, did you already ask the question you were hoping to ask me?
I didn't.
Okay.
You ready?
Because she's been talking about this question, and I hope it's okay. I'm just curious now. What is it?
You'll get it. So there is one question within wrestling fans that when we're asked it, or when people say, "Oh, wrestling's," we get this anger in us.
Oh, yeah.
And we get such a build-up, and we're like, no, it's not. And I know what your answer is, so I want you to answer, and then I would like to hear your explanation.
Okay.
Is wrestling fake? See how angry he got?
It's annoying more than anything. Is it fake? It's a loaded question.
It is.
Is it fake in the sense that the outcomes are not or organic? No, the outcomes are completely made up. Everything is choreographed and planned out of what's going to happen. Actually, funny enough, a lot of the wrestlers too don't know if they're going to win or lose the match until the day of, to help build that suspense. So that's I kind of like that, but it's always planned out. For big, pay-per-views, premium live events, of course they know ahead of time, so they can plan out their things that they're going to do as far as in the ring.
Yeah.
Because if you don't plan out what you're going to do in the ring, it can cause some serious injury. Now, that's the other thing. The reason I say it's not too fake as the word is they put their bodies through hell all the time. They wrestle not just on the live shows, but they do live events. What they put their bodies through on a daily basis is real. I mean, if you go look up the different neck injuries, broken necks, torn calves. I'll never forget watching the episode where it was Triple H and Chris Jericho were in a tag team against Stone Cold and somebody else. I can't remember who it was. But he went to go stop, or no, I can't remember. I think it was Stone Cold and The Rock. And he went to stop The Rock from doing a move. And he leaned forward, and I literally still watch to this day. I remember seeing his calf muscle, or not his calf, his quad muscle, roll up like it just, because it's literally tore off of the ligament by his knee, and you can literally see it roll up because he landed that harshly. So is it fake in the key term? No, because what they put their bodies through. But is it fake in the sense that it's planned out and it's basically a soap opera for people? Yes,
it really is. Yeah,
it's a soap opera. It tells storylines, and you get to have and you're entertained by people in the ring doing really fun moves and entrances. Like, it's really for anyone. So that's my explanation for it. I mean, would you agree with that one?
Yeah, I don't think it's fake. I think it's scripted.
Scripted. There's a better word. It's scripted.
For weeks. I mean, you can see documentaries where they'll pull out their schedule, and it's like months in advance of what they're planning to do. But I don't think it's fake. I mean, they are constantly getting hurt. They are constantly sore. It's crazy.
Everybody out there, go online and Google Cody Rhodes Hell in a Cell pec muscle. Just put that in there.
That's crazy.
You will see he wrestled with a torn pectoral muscle, and the bruising you see on there. He wrestled with that for about half an hour.
Yeah.
That's real.
It's ridiculous.
That's insane. Like, that's the kind of stuff we talk about, what they put their bodies through.
But then, like, that story, it's really cool because he was fighting against Seth Rollins, and he is a well-trained, well-seasoned wrestler to know how to work with Cody Rhodes in a way that they can put on a great match, put on a great story where they're both completely safe. And that's what I love about it.
Oh, yeah. So that's, Speaking of, like, let's go into that a little bit. Like, what are some memorable wrestling, like watching it or being at a live event? Because I you talked about that, but like, what are some other ones that like really, like, you thought was like peak wrestling? Like, I'll go for an example. Storyline wise, one of the best stories that I think I still remember this day as far as modern was the Daniel Bryan story that built up to him winning the belts at WrestleMania. Like, that storyline, talking about how he was like not an A+ wrestler, he was a B+, and like the establishment was against him winning the titles or even getting a shot, and just going with like the will of the people who wanted him to be there, and like playing on that idea because the establishment was trying to build their own, like Randy Orton and all them to be the guys with holding the titles. But the people wanted Daniel Bryan, because we talked about how like certain, like Vince McMahon and them push certain wrestlers to be what they want to be, the guy. But at the time, the fans wanted Daniel Bryan. So Vince and Triple H were smart, Triple H was actually one who brought this to Vince to use that against the audience to push Daniel Bryan to become that by doing that. And I thought it's such a good, when he won it, I remember watching that WrestleMania. It was such a good moment because it was a good completion to that story. That was like good storytelling as far as that's wrestling goes. That's what I kind of mean. What about you?
I think one of my favorites was when they went from the Divas era or the Divas division to then just being the women's division, because they didn't want to be these like preppy girls. They wanted to be like kind of hardcore aggressive people, and they had an entire pay-per-view called Evolution, and it was only women. It was amazing.
And that's when Rhea Ripley first started out, when she just had blonde hair.
Yep.
That was, I remember that too. I remember watching that. And then you got to introduce like different female wrestlers who were not necessarily in WWE, just around the world,
but they
competing.
brought them in.
And they brought them in. Yeah, that was a great moment too.
It was such a good, which they had kind of been building up again with Trish Stratus and Lita, their story. But this was when I believe Stephanie McMahon was one that was like, no, we're changing. Yeah. We're not divas, we're women now.
After Trish and Lita retired, there was a big moment there in wrestling where the Divas division was a joke.
It was.
Like, the talent was not there. Like, it's nowhere near what it was now. And it just, the quality, like I remember still watching it back in like 2010, 2011, that I was just rolling my eyes. I'm like they would mess up a move, they would mess up a spot, and it's like, oh, come on guys, like this is your job. But then you had people like Bayley, like Paige. Paige really, to me, Paige started it. in
Because she
2012.
was so
She
different.
was so good.
She was so
not just the character,
different
but she
looking than
had been
everybody.
doing it since she was a teenager. Like she was extremely young with
Wasn't
her family.
she doing it technically when her mom was still pregnant with her?
Oh, yeah.
Because like there's a story where like Paige's mom didn't know she was pregnant and was wrestling, and she was like, "That was me."
Yep.
So she's kind of been wrestling before she was born.
For her whole life, yeah. So it really started with her, and then just evolved from there to the what you call the four horsewomen with Bailey, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and
Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks. Those then it evolved from there. Now you have Rhea Ripley. You have all these different wrestlers now. Now it's so entertaining to watch the female division because it's good quality again. So that to me, yeah, definitely moments there like that. That was really good. But of course, the other one for me was the Attitude Era in general. I can't help that I love it so much. That's why I put it behind me. The hardcore division, the storylines there that happened with Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin, like the corporation versus that. I'll never forget watching when Stone Cold brought in a beer truck and just like sprayed Vince McMahon all in with beer. Like that was amazing. And then of course you lead into when Vince bought WCW and the whole wars. That was another thing that's funny for me. So when that happened, when WCW and WWE were like at odd, like they're fighting for control of whoever's going to be on top. I say in quotations because he already bought them, so we knew, if you were an adult, you knew, but as a kid, you didn't know. You know what I mean? So I remember in middle school, this is how nerdy it got. I'm ready for this. If you guys are ready for this, in 3 minutes, we'll go probably just a little over time, guys. It's all good. It's all good. But no, and this is in middle school. All of us had like, who were you? Were you Team WWE or Team WCW? So like, in the halls, we would literally have like little like stare downs with one another, or we would go in like the soccer field and have wrestling matches of our own. Like we had our own little factions. I was the leader of the WWE team, and then somebody else was the leader of WCW, and like it just kept going from there. And it was back then, you're like looking back, I'm like, God, I was dumb. Because we were doing like, I was putting people in sharpshooters, I was power bombing some dudes, like it was getting crazy. But it was such a, like, you look back and like it was fun. It was a fun time. So moments like that to me, like what really stands out.
So we're talking a lot about WWE, but what would you say is a favorite moment or a favorite wrestler outside of WWE?
Well, I talked about Bill Goldberg, of course. Goldberg, WCW, huge for me. But then, like, of course, back then you had the NWO Wolfpack in WCW, which got them to where they were, which was amazing. And of course, that's where you found people like Booker T and different Rey Mysterio, where you really got introduced to them there. But besides that, TNA actually, AJ Styles got me into TNA, and Sting, another big character who was in that and went into TNA. Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Like he was in WWE, but went to TNA. Like his character changed so much, and it was so entertaining to watch. Like, and then now you have AEW, which if you want to count like AEW, who is like AEW like originals, quote unquote, like Cody Rhodes started it, so that's where really it reignited my love for him because he completely changed as a character. But he also so many other wrestlers there who are so talented. That Britt Baker. Is another, like, she's not a WWE girl. She's a hardcore AEW wrestler, and she's awesome.
She's good.
She's so awesome. So that's me. What about you?
My big one is Kenny Omega, who has never been in WWE, which I think is very interesting. But if you've never seen it and you're a fan of wrestling or even kind of a fan, go watch Kenny Omega fighting an 11-year-old girl. It is so amazing, especially if you, with the knowledge of Kenny Omega, that he is completely safe. He doesn't really take risks. He doesn't put people in like high situations. So he's fighting an 11-year-old girl, knowing that this girl is completely fine. She's completely safe. It is so cool. But he's my big one of people outside of WWE.
And I actually knew him before that from New Japan Pro Wrestling. That's where I got to know him a little bit, because you can find that on the internet and stuff like that. He's a big one, but he's an amazing wrestler. Don't get me wrong. I'm just, when he's on the mic, it's like Goldberg. Like, I'm just like, it's so cringeworthy to listen to him trying to talk on the mic. It just, that's one of the big things when you try and find like what makes a wrestler like a star. It's not just their wrestling, it's their charisma, it's their how they're able to capture the audience, it's their talking on the mic to be able to capture the audience. That's why I think Roman Reigns has become what he is, because his mic skills improved drastically. Like when he's doing his tribal chief thing, when he was the villain, he would talk so softly, but people would listen to every line. Like, they would be quiet for every line. Same with CM Punk. things like that. So, yeah, Kenny Omega's great. I don't know. I actually like not Ethan Page. He's one of the other guys who originated. He's got the long hair. Oh hell, I forgot his name already. It's fine. I'm not a big fan of those tag team guys either. I'm just not a big fan of them. The Young Bucks? Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of them.
Really?
They're fine. I mean, they're talented. Again, they're talented. I just don't connect with them. So
I think they're funny.
Yeah.
I think they're really good. I think their story right now is not the best, but when they were like the Young Bucks and they were really like charismatic and just really humorous.
Yeah, their main star is MJF.
Which is...
He's probably not going to be there very longer. He's probably going to come to WWE soon. He's probably going to go to WWE soon.
Good.
So. Other than that, I mean, before we wrap up here, any more things like...
Do you have a wrestler that's currently wrestling right now that is not as big as you want them to be? Like almost like an underdog wrestler that you want to just see take off?
Ooh. It's a good one.
There's a lot of them out there.
AEW, I would say for sure. Oh heck! I'm blanking on his name that he has in AEW. But for WWE, oof, put me on the spot. What about you? Do you have one?
My big one right now is Chelsea Green in WWE. I think she's being recognized right now, and I think she's getting a push. But I've seen her do some things in Lucha Underground. She is crazy, and I think she needs a massive push right now.
That's actually a really good. I mean, I do enjoy her as well. I will say Andrade.
Yeah.
He is so good at what he does, yet he is not getting that push he deserves right now. Mm-hmm. And he's been in it for quite a while, so that one's kind of for me is a big one. Like, why aren't you pushing him more?
Yeah.
Honestly, that's a big one for me. Because Gunther's already kind of gotten his big push now, so that's not one that was on my list, but not much anymore. Mm-hmm. Another one for me, Joey Gargano is another big one, and his partner definitely.
They were so good. This was another reason I loved NXT is because they kind of took the both of them and just let them run. Yeah. And they were both amazing in it.
Oh yeah, and then for AEW, he was in WWE and he went to AEW. He's got a bunch of tattoos. He's married to Selena Vega.
Aleister Black?
Yes.
Or I guess Malachi Black.
There
now.
It is. Thank you.
He's good.
He is so good.
He is good.
Yeah, I remember when he got signed to AEW, JR at the time said, "Hey, you're our future, kid." What now? What happened? He was supposed to be the future, and I believed in that because he deserves it. Now he's in the mid card where he was told he wasn't going to be.
He does not belong
that to
there.
Me he belongs way more up. He deserves at least. I hope if he. That's one thing. I guess the last thing I'll say before we sign off here is that's why I'm so happy Triple H took over WB, because Vince McMahon dropped the ball, especially this latter year, because Attitude Era, 80s, he's a genius.
Yeah.
There's a reason he won the Monday Night Wars with WCW. Absolute genius. And even the Ruthless Aggression Era, genius. But 2010s, he just seemed to not care anymore.
Yeah.
And he dropped the ball on so many potential stars who could have been great, like a Bray Wyatt, like a Aleister Black, like your guy.
Like Adam Cole, which
like
is why
Adam
he left.
Cole. This is why he left. Because he saw the writing on the wall that once he got to the main roster, he wasn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like things like that was like what could have been, which makes me excited now for wrestling.
Yeah. With
Triple H in charge of creative, is because he knows how to build wrestlers. He knows how to, manage them and build them in the way that is organic. Like, because the proof is in the pudding what he did in NXT. I mean, he's doing the same thing with it now. He listens to the crowd. He listens to all that stuff, or like who actually is working and who isn't working. So that makes me excited for the future, at least for WWE. AEW, honestly, feel like they're squandering. Tony Khan has not been doing an amazing job recently. I think he's gotten way over his head, and he needs to bring on somebody who really knows what they're doing creatively, so it's not just on his shoulders. Because when they first started, they were red hot. Now they're squandering, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean they had like the new what was it, Wednesday Night Wars with NXT.
Yeah,
and they won at the time. They won. NXT had to move to Tuesdays, and now they're only like half selling out college arenas. Yeah. When WWE is selling out in Dublin.
Yeah, even just for Monday Night Raw or anything like that, they're selling like 18,000, 19,000 people. Yeah.
Do you have, kind of going back to the switch between McMahon and Triple H, do you have a moment that you remember going like, oh, things are changing?
Yes, Drew McIntyre.
Mm-hmm.
That's because that's when he first really started. Drew McIntyre really took off, and then also not just that. When I really knew things were changing is when CM Punk came back. Like, yeah, Vince helped do that, but he was already kind of on his way out the door, and Triple H more did that. But even then, like, Triple H put his personal feelings aside because him and CM Punk don't get along. But they put it aside, and when he came back, I'm like, wow, it really has changed because CM Punk said he'd never work for Vince ever, and since Triple H is more in charge of creative, that kind of enticed him. So things like that is really where I felt like it was the changing of the guard was really happening, because that's when you first saw Triple H with Drew McIntyre's story and how he became champion. That's where it really kind of took off from like me. I saw it actually happening, which was in 2019, 2020, or 2020. And so yeah, that. What about you?
A big one was when Cody Rhodes came back, and
Yeah,
they really
that's
pushed
another
Cody
one too.
Rhodes. But another very, very small one was because Triple H was involved in NXT, and that was kind of like those were his kids, kind of.
Yep.
And then when they moved from NXT to the main roster, McMahon took over and just changed everything. And I remember one that stuck out to me was Piper Niven, who was the NXT Women's Champion. Like, she is huge. She's such a big character. She came in, they just completely destroyed her.
Gave her the dumbest name.
They called her Dewdrop. What the heck is that? What the heck? But then they had the Royal Rumble, and that's when they bring out 30 men, 30 women, one at a time. And I remember she came out as Piper Niven again, and the announcers were like, "It's Piper Niven! Oh my gosh, guys, Piper Niven! Did you know Piper Niven's here? Piper Niven's here!" And that was when I was kind of like,
yeah, when they go,
he's taking back his
that's
names.
definitely that too. But like where wrestlers now have two names, like not just one name, like a first name, last name. That's why I knew things were changing too.
Yeah.
When you refer to them no longer as titles but belts, things like that.
Just like
the
those
small
moments.
little things.
Yeah,
that
but
really,
like that little moment was, I was like, he's taking his kids back. He's calling them by their name.
Yep, that's why I love
and
that.
I loved it. And it was so good.
Either way, I'm excited for the future. I'm glad we got to do this finally because this was a lot of fun. I'm sure everyone here on our crew is like, guys,
oh my gosh,
can you stop? Please, I want to go home. Well, they're going to get their wish, guys. That will do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. This was a little personal passion one episode we wanted to do. We appreciate you guys joining. If you are wrestling fans, pro wrestler fans, what are some of your favorite moments, your favorite wrestler, your least favorite moments? What parts did you stop watching or did you pick back up? Jump in the comments. Let's share your stories, and I'll try and comment on those as well. So will Jordan. Also, if you like what you watched and you like this content here on Red Digital, hit that like button, punch the subscribe button so you receive all... So you receive all of our great content we have for you here on ReelTime. I will let you guys know that this will be going up, of course, as the time you guys are watching this. It is on Monday. For next week's episode, it will be our very last episode ever here on Red Digital. It'll be that next Monday, December 2nd. We will have something very special. We'll still cover some news, of course, but we'll have a very special one. We'll have lots of other crews who've been on here before, or even like talk about their favorite moments behind the cameras, like things they loved and enjoyed. And then we will sign off for the last time. That'll be pretty. But I will say, for some people who want to see if it will continue in any way, like you guys know, some of this is on my channel, ReelTime. I will continue it. It's just a much more scaled down version. Probably just me and whoever else wants to be on Zoom, and I'll just still have a bunch of different stuff as you see here going with that. But it'll be last time here on Red Digital. Saddens me, but it'll be the 30th episode when we do that.
It will.
It'll be the 30th episode. I was excited. All right, guys. Thank you so much again. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone here. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Have fun with your family and friends and relax. We'll see you here next time. Again, I'm Josh Williams.
I'm Jordan Burke.
Oh, wait, we're on camera 1. Go to camera 2. Go to camera. There we go, guys. And thanks for keeping it real.
With ReelTime.
Bye.